This is the story of a man who in his lifetime published more than 30 volumes of poetry and 8 books of prose. He would write of history, love, and anger. A man who has a legacy in the cultural, romantic, and intellectual literary world to this day. A resistance poet, Palestine's national poet, Mahmoud Darwish. He was a beacon of hope to the people. And although the world was going through war, he would remain to write about hope. By publishing works in quotes such as, "And I tell myself, a moon will rise from my darkness." He also wrote about what he observed in these times. He wrote, "If the olive trees knew the hands that planted them, then their oil would become tears." When Darwish was just a child, him and his family were forced to leave their own home. They became exiled to Paris. When they returned, they were internal refugees in their own country. These injustices were very real to Darwish, so he decided to vocalize these injustices. So what he did next was he went to different villages and would recite this literature and spread the word of these crimes. This led to his arrest because he was considered a resistance poet. The most famous poems from this time and overall career was Identity Card, talking about his dual identity crisis with being an internal refugee. Known as a major poet for romance, he wrote thousands of lines in scripture about love, one of his most famous being, "You became like the coffee, the bitterness, the deliciousness, and the addiction." Although he had 2 wives, it was observed that he had wrote about the same woman, Rita, more than once. Piece begins by her asking, "When will we meet again?" And he says, "After a year and a war." She then says, "When will the war end?" And he replies, "When we meet." To conclude, Mahmoud Darwish put out courageous and extraordinary work that celebrated the freedom of human rights and romance in all of his works. He is now regarded as the national Palestine poet.
War, and very famous for his romantic writings. Another example would be, "If you ever ask how many times you came into my mind, I'd say once, because you came and never left."